On today's show, we go to Southern Florida to talk to our friends David and Mariela of the blackened heavy metal band they founded, Faethom. They have a new album out called Chaosmorphogoria, so let's find out more about what's going on with the band. Welcome everybody to this edition of After 5. Today our guest is Mariela, the original member and the singer and keyboardist of the band Faethom, a blackened heavy metal band out of Florida. Welcome back to the show, Mariela.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
So, Mariela, for people who are not so familiar with the band, give us like a little brief history of the band, what kind of music you play, that kind of stuff.
Certainly. So we are based out of South Florida, Fort Lauderdale mainly. And me and the other co-founder of the band are from David Diacrono. He's also the guitarist. We're from Bolivia, Cochabamba, Bolivia, and Faethom has a long history. It started like way back in Bolivia, but then we did really officially got it going in 2008 here in Fort Lauderdale with members from like different parts of South Florida. It's gone through several lineup changes throughout the years, but it's always been, us, the co-founders, me and David, just keeping it going, with the band. But right now, the album lineup for the new album is me on vocals, keyboards, David Diacrono on guitars. We just recently added an amazing bassist named Evie. She's incredible and very young, by the way, just slightly younger than me, okay? And then we also have Brian Wilson that recorded on the album. He's in Night Demon currently. He was also played with Emo Mom's team, Midnight Spell. He's just incredibly talented drummer from here. We go a lot back and forth with our drummer of almost a decade, Edmus Reyes. He's been helping us a lot with the live shows while Brian's been on tour. So it's crazy keeping a band going.
And what would you say are some of like your musical influences that the listener might pick up on when listening to your music?
I think a lot of times, even though, so we consider ourselves like a blackened heavy metal band because as we progressed over the years, we are an extreme metal band, but we are trying to bring a lot of the old school traditional heavy metal elements, even like classic rock elements into our music. So I believe a lot of people can feel like the King Diamond, Merciful Fate influence in our music, especially in the first two albums, because we always have like a story, a concept, including this new album, Chaosmorphogoria. There's a lot of spookiness, evilness going on. It's like the essence of that, even though technically the music is not exactly like that, but those are one of our main influences. And then just endless amount of bands. Like we get influenced all the time. Like in every song, I'm like, oh, let's do a Deathlight part here, or, like that kind of thing, like we get influenced by all kinds of bands.
So Faethom play a lot of local shows and have just played a bunch, actually, including the Tampa Death Fest with Venom Inc. So have you played any of your new material out yet?
Yes, we've been actually playing, Strike Thunder Rebel and Blackfire Star. We've been playing pre-COVID, actually. And it's, and now lately as we've gotten back, because the pandemic took like 3 years of our life away from us, really. We stopped playing and now, we're getting things back together again. And we've been just trying to push the new songs as much as possible. And we've been getting a pretty good response on it. So I'm excited because tomorrow is the official release for people to hear the entire album. This time it's like a sci-fi horror concept album. So we went very like science fiction on this one.
Now, speaking of, you guys have that new album coming out tomorrow, October 13th. So it'll be out when we listen to this. And it's called Chaosmorphogoria. So now, did you record this locally?
Yes. So the drums were recorded at Diacrono studio, by Brian Wilson. And then the rest of the music we recorded at David, Diacrono's home studio. And it was mixed and mastered in Germany by Jörg Eucken. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly. He actually just recently worked with the Anvil Boys on their album. So, he just made it sound incredibly an incredible sound. I can't wait for everyone to hear it because it's a really good production. Normally, like in the past, we've done most everything, but this time we're like, let's send it to get mixed and mastered by, a professional.
Now, again, is this like independently released? You guys doing it by yourself?
Yes, it is currently independently released. We are shopping around, hoping to get on maybe a distribution deal with the label, but crossing fingers on that.
Okay, so what does Chaosmorphogoria mean?
Tongue twister. You can do that when you're warming up, before like doing the podcast.
Oh God.
So the band is, I'm sorry, not the band, the album itself, it's like the concept is this extraterrestrial warrior woman that's setting off on a journey to these different planets where she fights these evil monsters and like has to win this battle to become her truest self in the end and embrace the chaos of the cosmos, and it's really a metaphorical journey of the self because you can apply it to your own life. It's basically us battling all the demons that we have, all those obstacles that are in our path, and just like, striking them down. Our last song is called Strike Thunder Rebel. It's all about overcoming, striking that down, becoming your truest self, and just going off. And I decided to name it Chaosmorphogoria because, I don't know, it just felt like the last song on the album is called Chaosmorphogoria. It's an instrumental song. And David, I named it Chaosmorphogoria. He's like, why don't we go with that for the album name? I think it's unique. If you put it in Google, it'll pull up just us, basically, at this point. So that's cool, too.
So why did you guys want to end the album with an instrumental?
So we always start with like instrumental introduction, and we have an interlude and an outro. So again, because it's a concept, and plus, obviously me being a keyboardist, I always like to make like these spooky intros, spooky outros. And David loves to do like a guitar interlude. So again, throwing back, it's like the throwback to Andy LaRock from, King Diamond and stuff. He likes to do that as well. So that's how we like to end it on that. And it's very sci-fi. Like I was inspired by Vangelis for that last song. So hopefully when you hear it, you'll hear that in there.
Now, did you guys do anything differently on this album that you haven't done in the past, whether it be, through writing or recording or adding any new elements or anything?
Yes, actually. So our first two albums are really long albums, and we purposely said we want to make a shorter album. So, a person could put the album on their way to work, and like in the 30 minutes that it takes to get to work, they can hear the album, just something that's like snappy and to the point. So we did that differently. It's 7 full songs with one intro, an intro and outro. I think it falls like about 45 minutes or less, which is compared to like the almost hour and 20 minutes. Like we barely fit the music in a CD on our last album. So that was different. Also, just like getting it professionally mixed and mastered was something that we haven't done in the past. And I feel it was super important for us to take that extra step just so that we can sound, on par with other bands. Like just sound more professional. I do love that gritty, raw sound, but I felt like this time around we needed to have it professionally mixed and mastered.
So we're talking to David and Mariela, founders and members of the band Faethom out of Southern Florida. They have a brand new album out called Chaosmorphogoria, and here to tell us more about it are David and Mariela. Now, did you go into writing this album with any preconceived notions on how you wanted it to sound?
It went through an evolution because in the beginning we didn't have exactly the concept, and I feel there's been like such a resurgence of like this 80s horror sci-fi sound. So we wanted to we were like, why don't I do this like a sci-fi concept, go totally different direction, still horror, but let's add like that old school, like 80s horror keyboards and just make it like really kind of old school. So when you hear it, the keyboards like are throwback to horror movies from like the 70s, the 80s. So there's that, you know, it's a little bit kind of going into that. And I don't know, we started writing this way back. So I don't exactly I don't know where we're at that point in time, but it's been a minute since we started writing this album.
So how the heck did you come up with this concept, Mariela?
Oh my goodness. Just because I was at a point in my life where I was going through a lot of changes in every aspect of my life. And I was like, I had to find within myself that warrior woman, you know, that is like, that picks you up and is like, okay, you are going to get through this and we're going to fight through this, you know? So with that in mind, I decided, why don't I turn all these obstacles, all these kind of like monsters that you're facing, monsters, demons, you know, that you're fighting. And we can turn each song into that, like this actual epic battle. It's like Clash of the Titans in outer space, you know, like you're going from one planet to another, fighting these monsters. We have like a giant named Gargantuan. There's a song called Gargantuan. And also at the same time, the lyrics, if you read them, it can represent like a period in my life or someone in my life that I was battling at the time or throughout my life.
So how did
Sorry to butt in, but it's kind of like a mythical representation of the inner battles, you know, the battles that one goes through inside. A mythical representation of that. But sorry I'm late. Traffic is insane here in Florida.
It's like a voice from God just appeared.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That was creepy.
So this is creepy. David.
Lurking
in
the dark.
So David has just joined us of the band, and he is also an original member and the guitar player. So now, did you go into writing this album? Oh, I already asked her about the preconceived notions about this album. Do you kind of just leave this all up to Mariela, David, when it comes to all the concept and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I let her run with it because her imagination is wild, and so I fully trust that. Of course, I do talk to her while she's coming up with these concepts, especially on this last one. I know I do have conversations with her as to what it would represent to both of us, since we are both in this together. Whenever we write an album, it's a collaborative effort. But as far as writing lyrics, no, that's all her. So, yeah.
Now, what about you, David? Did you do anything differently when you were writing your part that maybe you didn't quite do in the past?
But for this album, it was a little bit different because before, on the first two albums, we had the concept before we had the music. In this case, in the third album, it was the other way around pretty much. It started with Strike Thunder Rebel, which is the final actual song in the album. There's an outro after that, but it's the final song. And that was the first song we wrote. I wrote the riffs, and the song was pretty much complete, and we didn't really have the lyrics because we didn't know what concept we were going to have on it. And this was before all the changes happened, to not just to Mariela, but also to myself. We had all these crazy changes, and then eventually all those crazy changes influenced the lyrical content because it was like an awakening almost for each of us in a different way, I guess. It's all very personal, but if you read the lyrics, they could actually represent anybody's awakening, whether it's a spiritual or if it's just if you feel oppressed and then you find the inner strength not to feel oppressed anymore. There are messages like that all over the album.
So tell us a little bit now about this artwork on the album.
Ooh, yes. I'm very proud to talk about that because the album artwork artist is my brother.
Oh, cool.
He has been he's been the artist for all our releases, really. And I just wanted something that when you see it, you're like, you see empowerment, and you have our warrior woman. Her name is Tien Tall, standing on top of a gargantuan who she just destroyed in a battle. And then behind her is her spacecraft where she's been traveling to all these planets. So it just kind of tells a story there. And you're like, we wanted people to look at it and really want to hear the album and understand what the story is. and I feel it's like really represented in the artwork.
And now you guys have an album release party coming up on the 26th, so why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we do have 2 parties really. We decided to, since we're not going to be able to do a tour right away, which we're hoping to do that, but it's not going to be possible because our drummer, Brian Wilson, he is now part of a band that's touring a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the first CD release party here, and it's at Piper's here in Pompano Beach, Florida. We're going to be playing the whole album, the full album, and also about 4 songs on top of that. And it's going to be literally from beginning to end, intro, interlude. There's an acoustic interlude in the middle. There's a 12-string guitar that comes in the middle. That's also going to be on stage. So it's going to be unique. It's not going to be something that you see all the time in extreme metal. I'm even building some props for these 2 parties. Now, the second party is going to be on the 28th. It's going to be in Tampa. That's about 4.5 hours away from here, going up north. And we love Tampa. I mean, Tampa has always been so welcoming of us from the beginning. Just recently, we played there with Satan and Venom Inc. For the Tampa Death Fest, and many other cool bands were there too. And we had such an amazing reaction from the crowd. So we're very, very lucky to have 2 parties instead of 1 this time around.
And I just want to add, sorry, the October 26th is at Piper's in Pompano Beach, and the October 28th is at the Brass Mug in Tampa, and the one at Piper's is going to be with Godrot, Mannequin Kind, and Orb Weaver. There's South Florida metal bands that are awesome, and then we have Burn at the Stake happening at the Black Mass 3 in Tampa at the Brass Mug, and a bunch of other great bands. So really good representation there, and we're just going to have a blast.
Now, do you guys got all kinds of new merch and all kinds of goodies, too, you're going to have available for everyone?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we have T-shirts, new patches, stickers, and, of course, the album.
And the album is arriving right on time. We're actually going to be getting it tomorrow, which is pretty crazy. So the date that we set ourselves to release it on is when we're getting the CD.
I know, close call.
Very close call.
Now, is your merch and music available online? And if so, what sites can people go to pick up that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be available on fathomweb.com, which is our official website. Also Bandcamp. And, of course, the actual music is going to be in all streaming services. It looks like that's going to take a little while longer. So it's going to be available in the meantime on Bandcamp. And if you want physical copies, you can get them through the website, through the official website, or through Bandcamp as well.
So again,
and also the merch.
Oh, there you go. so again, Faethom have a new album out called Chaosmorphogoria. You can check them out on their socials. And David and Mariela, thank you so much for being our guest today, and all the best with the new album.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you having us on your show.
And Jenny, was awesome, as always. We missed you. It's been a few years since the last one, so I'm so glad that we did this again. Thank you so much for having us.
Dude.